tragedy in Taiwan. A wall of water came crashing down from the mountains of Hualien, sweeping away bridges, homes, and entire communities in a matter of minutes. What began as relentless rainfall from Typhoon Ragasa's outer bands turned into a catastrophic flood no one saw coming. At least 14 people are dead. More than 100 are missing. Thousands have been forced to flee their homes as rivers swallowed streets and whole villages vanished beneath muddy torrents. Imagine waking up to the sound of rain only to see the road outside your home transformed into a raging river. Cars floating, houses collapsing, neighbors screaming for help. For the people of Guangfu Township, this nightmare became reality. How could rainfall, not even from the eye of the storm, unleash such devastation? What exactly caused a mountain lake to overflow with such fury? And most importantly, what comes next for the survivors of Taiwan's deadliest floods this year? Stay with us as we uncover the story behind this tragedy. Typhoon Ragasa, the most powerful storm of 2025, has been carving a path of destruction across East Asia. Classified as a super typhoon, Ragasa packed winds of over 200 kilometers per hour as it barreled across the South China Sea. Yet in Taiwan, it wasn't the howling winds that caused disaster. Instead, it was the outer rain bands, massive arcs of storm clouds that stretched hundreds of kilometers away from the storm's eye. These rain bands pummeled eastern Taiwan for hours, unleashing rainfall at a scale rarely recorded in the region. In Hualien County, heavy rains triggered landslides in the mountains, blocking rivers and creating what experts call a barrier lake. For a brief moment, this natural dam held back tens of millions of tons of water. But when it finally gave way, the unleashed torrent raced downhill into Guangfu Township. Taiwan's Central Weather Bureau reported rainfall totals of up to 70 centimeters, or 28 inches, within just a few days, figures that rival the most extreme storms in the island's history. According to local authorities, the barrier lake contained as much as 91 million tons of water. When it burst, an estimated 60 million tons surged downstream in minutes. This chain reaction, set in motion by Typhoon Ragasa's relentless rains, created one of Taiwan's deadliest floods in recent memory. The impact of Typhoon Ragasa's rains on Taiwan has been nothing short of catastrophic. When the barrier lake in Hualien County gave way, the unleashed torrent swept directly into Guangfu Township. Entire neighborhoods were swallowed within minutes. In the village of Dama, home to roughly 1,000 people, the flood left a trail of destruction that residents describe as unimaginable. Roads vanished under torrents of muddy water. A key bridge across the river collapsed, severing critical transport routes and isolating communities. Debris, from shattered homes, uprooted trees, and overturned vehicles, piled high in the streets. Reuters. For many, the flood struck with terrifying speed. One local postman, surnamed Xie, recalled how he barely escaped by climbing to a second floor, only to watch helplessly as his car was carried away and slammed into his home. His story mirrors those of countless others who faced a sudden wall of water with nowhere to run. Reuters. As of the latest reports, 5,200 residents, nearly 60% of Guangfu's population, were forced to shelter in place, many on the upper floors of their homes, cut off from the outside world. Others sought refuge with relatives or at emergency shelters. Reuters. Taiwan's military deployed 340 soldiers to assist in rescue efforts. Soldiers in armored vehicles moved door to door, delivering bottled water, food, and blankets to families trapped in the mud-laden streets. Helicopters were mobilized to survey damage and locate missing persons. The devastation is stark. Streets that once bustled with daily life are now rivers of sludge. Neighborhoods that thrived for generations lie silent, buried under debris and fear. While floodwaters have begun to recede in some areas, the scale of destruction remains overwhelming. For Guangfu Township, this disaster is not just about damaged roads or broken bridges. It is about a community torn apart, lives lost, homes destroyed, and a haunting question echoing among survivors. How could one storm change everything so quickly? Behind the numbers lies a heartbreaking human tragedy. As of the latest reports, 14 people have been confirmed dead in Guangfu Township. All of them were swept away when the barrier lake burst, unleashing torrents that engulfed their homes. Reuters. The toll may rise even higher, as 124 people remain missing. Families cling to the faint hope that their loved ones are still alive, trapped somewhere in the debris. Every passing hour, however, makes that hope harder to hold on to. Reuters. Entire households were caught in the flood's sudden surge. Some victims drowned as waters rose too quickly for them to escape. Others were buried beneath collapsing homes or swept downstream by currents too strong to resist. Rescue teams continue to search through rubble, mud, and shattered buildings, but the devastation is overwhelming. Stories of survival are tinged with sorrow. Neighbors describe hearing desperate cries for help during the night, voices that faded as the waters raged on. One village chief, Wang Tse-an, called the situation chaotic and urged immediate sheltering for those who lost everything. The tragedy has left behind more than physical destruction. It has torn apart families, leaving children without parents and communities without elders. Funerals are being prepared even as the search for the missing continues. For many survivors, the grief is unbearable. The homes they built, the lives they shared, and the memories they cherished, all gone in an instant. The flood in Guangfu is not just a natural disaster. It is a deeply human one, a reminder of the fragility of life when nature strikes with such sudden force. In the wake of this catastrophe, Taiwan's government has mobilized every available resource to respond. The scale of the flooding in Hualien County has made rescue efforts immensely challenging, but authorities are racing against time. The military deployed 340 soldiers to the disaster zone. Armored vehicles moved through mud-clogged streets, delivering bottled water, food rations, and blankets to residents stranded in their homes. Helicopters circled above, surveying the devastation and searching for signs of survivors. Reuters. Local officials set up emergency shelters for displaced families. Thousands of residents sought refuge in schools, community centers, and temporary housing, while others remained in upper floors of their homes awaiting supplies. Rescue teams faced enormous obstacles: collapsed bridges, destroyed roads, and the ever-present risk of further landslides. Heavy rainfall and unstable terrain made it dangerous to reach isolated villages. Despite these challenges, teams pressed forward, using inflatable boats and heavy machinery to clear paths and reach those trapped. Taiwan's central government stressed that resources were being directed to the east, even as the west, home to critical semiconductor industries, reported no major damage. Reuters. Even across the Taiwan Strait, Beijing's Taiwan Affairs Office expressed condolences, a rare gesture amid tense cross-strait relations. The response has been swift, but the needs are overwhelming. For the survivors of Guangfu, food, clean water, and medical care remain urgent. Every hour counts in the race to save lives and bring relief to communities shattered by the flood. The floods in Taiwan are not an isolated disaster. They are part of a growing pattern of extreme weather across Asia. Scientists have long warned that climate change is intensifying storms, making rainfall heavier, floods deadlier, and recovery harder. Typhoon Ragasa is a stark example. Though its eye did not strike Taiwan directly, its outer rain bands were powerful enough to create one of the deadliest floods in years. The message is clear. Even regions far from the storm's center are at risk when super typhoons form over warmer oceans. Elsewhere, Ragasa has already left its mark. In Hong Kong, hurricane-force winds toppled trees and flooded streets. In southern China's Guangdong province, authorities evacuated more than 770,000 people as the typhoon pushed inland. Reuters. For Taiwan, this disaster recalls painful memories of Typhoon Morakot in 2009, which killed over 600 people. The similarities are striking. Mountainous terrain, relentless rain, and communities swept away in minutes. Yet what's different today is the urgency. Experts say such once-in-a-century events are happening more often. Around the world, messages of solidarity have poured in. International organizations, humanitarian agencies, and ordinary people on social media are expressing support for Taiwan. But beyond sympathy, the tragedy raises difficult questions. Are current disaster preparedness measures enough? And how can vulnerable regions adapt as climate extremes become the new normal? The tragedy in Taiwan is a reminder of nature's unforgiving power. In Hualien's Guangfu Township, at least 14 lives have been lost, more than 100 remain missing, and thousands are displaced. Homes, bridges, and entire communities were swept away in moments, leaving scars that will take years to heal. Yet amid the devastation, there are also stories of resilience. Neighbors helping neighbors, soldiers risking their lives to reach the stranded, and families holding on to hope against all odds. For Taiwan, below. And don't forget, like, subscribe, and stay with us for more global disaster coverage. Stay safe, stay aware, and thank you for watching.